Great. Good afternoon, everybody. It's 1:03. My name is Odessa Woodley. I'm the Director of Facilities and Plant Operations and the hiring chair for the Director of Safety and Security for North Seattle College. It's my great pleasure to introduce Edward Greene. He's one of our three candidates. And Edward is coming from Ohio, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. Cincinnati, Ohio.
Cincinnati, Ohio. Thank you. I've looked at too many resumes for the last couple of weeks.
I completely understand.
Yeah. So, Edward, this is, folks, this is the time for us to ask Edward questions regarding his interest in North Seattle College and the position. So please feel free to put your questions in the chat or unmute yourself and ask the questions. I will try once again to put the feedback form in the chat. So if that doesn't work, please let me know, okay?
Okay, not a problem. Not a problem at all.
So Edward, please introduce yourself and let's start this show.
Okay.
The show
Good
going.
afternoon, everyone. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Edward Greene. I am from Cincinnati, Ohio, and I have applied to your community college for the position of Director of Public Safety. Just a little bit about me and my background. I am a University of Cincinnati graduate. I have a master's degree in criminal justice and police science, and actually I am relatively new to it. Just completed the last portion of it February 27th of 2021. It was criminal justice stats and statistics. So I can tell you it was a real challenge. I currently also hold a bachelor's degree in criminal justice and police science. I hold a bachelor's degree in paralegal studies. I am also a certified paralegal. I also have, I'm OPATA certified in Ohio. That is Ohio Peace Officer Training certified, which makes me an official law enforcement officer for the state of Ohio. I have a security clearance because of my current employment with the government. And also what we call a guard card, which allows you to carry a firearm while doing security for the government. My employment background is as follows. I am currently employed with the United States Environmental Protection Agency. My current position is as a armed security. Basically what we do there is make sure that the staff and visitors that are coming in and out of the Environmental Protection Agency are safe and secure. We deal with a lot of dangerous substances, including COVID, anthrax, ricin, you name it, comes in and out of the facility. So our job is to make sure that everyone is safe and basically keeping the bad stuff contained. Prior to working for the EPA, I am currently still employed with Wilberforce University Police Department. It is a HBCU. I hold the rank of Administrative Police Sergeant. So in working with Wilberforce, it's once again it's a university. It's very diverse, and you deal with a lot of different students from all backgrounds, and a lot of them it's first time they've actually been away from their actual state and gone to an actual college. Prior to Wilberforce University, I served as the interim police chief for Cincinnati State Technical and Community College. This college is very much similar to your own. Generally, it is 2-year, most students come in, 2-year trade school, get specialized training in various professions. I served it was actually a fully functioning police department. So I served as their police chief for a short period of time. Prior to working with Cincinnati State, I served 3 years as a paralegal for the law office of Bruce Whitman. Mr. Whitman did a lot of work in the medical field, also dealing in public safety and also employment law. The biggest portion of my career was done with the Cincinnati Police Department. I was a police sergeant during that time. Some of my greatest contributions with the Cincinnati Police Department had been in an effort when we had the death of a law enforcement officer. I was the first supervisor on the scene. It was dealing with critical incidents. So if you can imagine, you have being the first one responding on an officer that actually died at the scene, and you're actually responsible for multiple staging areas for both media, command staff, and witnesses. So that's just a little bit of my background. On a personal note, what I like to enjoy as far as family time, I have a daughter. She's 22 years old. She attends the University of Cincinnati. She is studying to be a veterinarian. And I have a 17-year-old son that is finishing high school. Enjoyment level, my personal enjoyment is working out and playing indoor trampoline dodgeball and just keeping in shape.
Thank you. So I'll start off. I have one question. Given the last year in police brutality and the accountability and the Black Lives Matter protests, how can you bridge the gap in relationship with the campus community and outside first responder agencies, which includes the police department?
That's an excellent question. Based on my experience with Wilberforce University, as I stated before when I mentioned, you have students that come from various backgrounds, Chicago, Atlanta, Alabama, various places. They have had a lot of negative contact with law enforcement. What I have learned and what I employed at Wilberforce University is the tactic of getting to know the students by, one, sharing a meal with them at the cafeteria. That's what I employ for all of our officers. So for breakfast, lunch, and dinner at the caf, the officers always spent time eating with the students, getting to know the students, and making sure that they realized that we were human as well, and we cared about them. Our job was keeping them safe. We bridged the gap with the students that had problems with law enforcement by getting them to interact with us. A lot of times we worked with them in the police department with homework. You would be surprised how many students have difficulty with school, and to have a law enforcement officer that has a college background to sit there and tutor them in their homework is huge. It makes a difference, and it spreads like wildfire to other students. That's number one. Number two is our uniforms are not the standard law enforcement uniforms that you see for, like, let's say, state highway patrol or county units. Our uniforms are more so approachable and friendly. So we wore polo shirts. Our polo shirts had our name. It did have our badge embroidered on the front of it, and on the back it would say police. But it was very relaxed. It was polo. It was not in any type of intimidating type of uniform. And I think that's very important when students want to approach an officer. They don't want to approach someone that has a military type uniform. It makes them kind of intimidated in coming to ask. And plus, with the fact that people who have had negative experiences with law enforcement, they don't want to reach out to them. But having a relaxed uniform makes anyone want to come up to you and talk to you, and it makes it just very comfortable. That's one of the third issues we have with Wilberforce University, is that we had a family-friendly atmosphere. And going forward with this, and what I meant by that is, in bridging this gap, we had contacts with all the various law enforcement agencies that touched Wilberforce University, including Central State University Police Department, which was our sister school that's right across the street. So what the students knew is that if they got in any type of trouble, the law enforcement agency, save for it being a felony, the law enforcement agency that had contact with our students knew to reach out to us, and we advocated for the student. Now, once again, it was up to that law enforcement agency on what they wanted to do, but 9 times out of 10, in having great contacts with those outside law enforcement agencies, the students, the law enforcement agency generally would just turn the student over to us. We would in turn document the incident, send it to the dean of students with our recommendations, and everything was held internally. As I have stated in the previous interview I had, students come to school to get an education, not a criminal record. And that's how I plan on bridging the gap between the students and law enforcement.
So Kevin Williams has asked 3 questions. So I'll just read them out to you one at a time. So
Okay.
What is the total time you have served in law enforcement?
The total time I have served in law enforcement has been 16 years.
Okay. What is your total time in higher education while in law enforcement?
My total time in higher education in law enforcement would total currently 4 years.
Okay. What attracts you to Seattle? We are distinctly different than the Midwest.
And that is what is so important, is that you are distinctly different. Just quick story, what's happening in Boulder, Colorado. The police chief from Boulder, Colorado is actually a former Cincinnati police lieutenant and former University of Cincinnati police chief. So when having the training from mainstream policing and college policing in Cincinnati, it makes us, we're well-rounded and well-suited to go outside of our actual state and make a difference in various states or various colleges that we come into employment with. So we bring the experience of one, mainstream policing, which I consider the safety aspect, making sure that both citizens, faculty, staff, and law enforcement officers are safe. At the same time, you have the college campus feel. Remember, mainstream policing and campus policing are totally 2 different types of policing. So having the background of campus policing enables you to realize that you are actually dealing with your students. Your job is protecting the students. The students is the school's asset.
Thank you. Tony Stankovich is asking, hi, Edward, welcome. How would you describe the difference between policing and campus security?
Policing has law enforcement powers given to you by the state. You are sworn law enforcement powers with the ability to detain an individual, arrest, and also the ultimate issue is you can take someone's life. That's the difference with security, is you are actually securing the property of the campus community and protecting the students. However, you do not have law enforcement powers. You are simply security.
Thank you. Gregory Kenson asks, what is your philosophy in dealing with others, such as committees or leading groups? How do you deal with bureaucracy and hierarchy?
I deal with bureaucracy and hierarchy in a form of, one, respect and being able to work, and you're able to work in concert with them. That's how you're able to get projects and objectives completed. So it's all about working together in a cohesive team. That's what that is. It's not about being, hey, we're security, we're police, we're better than you. No, we all work together for one single mission. And that purpose is the education of the students, the safety of the students, the safety of faculty and staff, work in partnership together, which what we call campus-oriented policing at Wilberforce University.
Thank you. So let's see, I don't see, my question is, North Seattle, there will be a pedestrian bridge from our campus going across I-5 to the light rail station, which will be really across the street, I-5. This will bring a lot of folks onto our campus that are could be potential students and our non-students. And how would you address, and they will be coming on our campus, they might cross the campus proper to catch the bus, etc. How do you address the security for the campus in that regard?
Number one, can you help me out just a little bit more on describing the geographical area on where they're going? You said they're crossing over. Is it a bridge? Help me understand.
It's a bridge. It's a pedestrian bridge. We are on the west side of I-5. The light rail station is on the east side of I-5. So they're building right now, and it will be finalized in the fall of this year, a pedestrian bridge. It's about 1.5 miles. And it'll, people will park on our campus or take the bus, get off the bus and walk over to the, walk to the bridge, walk through our campus, walk on the bridge to catch the light rail to go wherever, and vice versa. Well, they'll get off the train, walk across the bridge, and they'll be entering our campus. So, and they'll be going through the campus to catch the bus on the south side or catching another bus on the north side. So that brings different dynamics as far as parking and as far as securing our buildings, but making it, welcoming at the same time. So how would you address the security in ensuring that we still have a welcoming campus?
Number one, I would look at the stats on the amount of volume, the times when the volume of people are coming through. That's what I want to know, when we have our highest volume. So let's say our highest volume is early in the morning, mid-afternoon, and then toward late evening. What I would want to do is to have a bike officer there, one of our bike security, making sure that they're there to assist with the ingress and egress of the patrons to the school. Having a bike officer is one of the less intimidating forms of security and or law enforcement, because you have an officer that's on a bike. They see him, he's visible. If he's needed, he's there. He can assist with the direction of traffic. And I would have him there during those high traffic, when the volume of traffic is extremely high, and also have a secondary officer there to back him up. But for the most part, have him in that area. That would be his specific beat, just to make sure he's in that area, to make sure that the students, the patrons, and everyone are safe. Also, I want to look at the type of lighting that we have, if there's any type of criminal element that that is in that area. I want to make sure that that's all addressed. And that's something that follows the theory of broken windows. You want to make sure that your area is lit. There's no trash, garbage, or debris. Everything is kept up and nice. Keeps the criminal element away.
Thank you so much. So Marion has a question about, what about your team members, your officers? How do you keep them motivated and happy with their jobs?
That's an excellent question. In keeping the officers motivated, my job is to empower them to take on responsibility and be proud of specific jobs that they have. So if an officer has something that is his forte, is his specialty, he's going to be more empowered to want to make it his own. And that's what I want to do for every officer. In addition to that, the constant education and training that I want to make sure that my officers receive make them top notch. So the more education, more training they receive, the better they become. And that's what's going to keep them empowered, that's going to keep them motivated. At the same time, there's a family feel that I'm going to bring to the campus, which will make them, when they're interacting with the students are happy to see them, they're greeting them, they know them by their names, they know if they have a problem, hey, I can speak with Officer Ramirez. They know the officers by their first name. That's that type of relationship that I want the officers, that I'm going to employ, I'm going to demand that the officers have with the students. And how I'm going to do that is first me being out there and them seeing how I interact with the students.
Okay, thank you. Tony Stankovich has a leadership question and hypothetical scenario. Suppose your
Okay.
officers applied a boot to a vehicle of a student who had broken traffic rules several times, and it was later learned that the fees in offense were forgiven by someone higher up. How would you handle the loss of faith amongst the security team and still support leadership?
Okay, can you read that one more time? Because I'm actually getting texts that are you're actually printing up or typing up as it's coming up here.
Oh,
So
I
if you
see.
could,
Okay. So a leadership question. This is from Tony Stankovich. A leadership question and hypothetical scenario. Suppose your officers applied a boot to a vehicle of a student who had broken traffic rules several times, and it was later learned that the fees in offense were forgiven by someone higher up. How would you handle the loss of faith amongst the security team and still support leadership?
okay, Tony, if I'm not mistaken, so it sounds like you're saying that uh, it's a particular student that had several offenses, and he had a boot put on his vehicle, but another student or somebody else had the exact same scenario, but all of their fees were forgiven. Is that what I'm getting?
Hi, essentially, yes, the officers followed the rules according to the book, applied the boot, and somewhere along the line, a superior, maybe you, maybe your superior, maybe their superior, decided to revoke what the officers had done. How do you handle that scenario?
Okay, we had a similar scenario that happened with that being that it was the dean's relative. Number one, anything dealing with parking, fees, tickets, things like that, will go through what I'm going to call our traffic enforcement unit. And the student will be free to file an appeal to the reasoning of why he received the citation. Now, I go from like UC, University of Cincinnati, they give you two opportunities. You know, you get two tickets, they give you two free passes. After that, you know, you're on the list, so we know who is actually on that list. Now, getting back to your most important question, someone who is above me, who makes a call and says, I want this student tickets wiped away or something to that effect. Being the fact that we are a college campus and we're not mandated by the actual state on how we deal with citations and things of that nature. One being the police chief, I'm going to advise my higher up, hey, we have to look at this in all fairness and equity, that we are doing everything correct so that we look good in the students, because I don't want my security department to look bad. So I would first ask that my higher up give an explanation on why he wants this ticket or boot removed off the student. Once again, I have a boss. I can't overrule my boss. It's a chain of command. So whatever they want, I have to abide by. But as the chief, I have to make sure that I keep even if it's the president, that his compass is kept north and that he understands. But hopefully he'll realize that we have an actual traffic unit that maintains all of this. And the students can see where the fairness is. Everybody is treated the same. You get two strikes, the third one, hey, you fall on the sword.
Okay, thank you. Another question from Marion. How about someone on campus who may be experiencing a mental health crisis? How do you handle that?
That's an excellent question. Based on my experience with the Cincinnati Police Department, I was trained in what's called MHRT, Mental Health Response Team member, also trained by the police psychologist, Dr. Dom, as a peer support member. When dealing with students that are having a mental health crisis, one, you're going to use their friends to help identify them. So by being the fact that we're an open and family-friendly security police department, what we do is we encourage our students, if they see something, it's just like you see something strange. If you see something, say something. If you have a friend that's in distress, call us. We'll come over. We will talk. We'll assess it. And more times than not, if it is based on my experience, if I feel that the student would benefit from professional services at either at the school psychologist or the outside hospital psychologist, we will drive the student there, stay with the student, make sure that the evaluation is sound, because ultimately we want to make sure that the student is safe to return to school and be in the population with the other students, staff, and faculty. So it's all about communication. Sometimes somebody just wants to express how they feel. They're feeling bad, they're feeling depressed. They may have had a bad grade. God knows myself, I've had a bad grade before, and it has made me sad. But being the fact that I am recently a graduate from University of Cincinnati, I understand the stresses that students go through on campus, and the mental stress that it can wreak havoc on them. So it's a matter of, one, encouraging and training my officers on how to recognize mental health issues and how to handle them, and being able to talk to the students or talk to that student, understand his problem, try and give sound advice if you can recognize that they are not a potential suicide or they're a threat to the campus community.
Okay, thank you. Question from Kevin Williams. Please share your approach to discipline.
Kevin, can you expound on that? Do you mean the discipline of students or discipline of my officers? Can you advise?
Of your staff.
My staff. Excellent question. Cincinnati Police Department employed what's called a matrix of discipline, meaning that the officer knows that for whatever offense they do, they know what the punishment is going to be. That's why it's going to be fair across the board. So no matter what they do, let's say they miss court. So you miss court, you know automatically you're going to get a verbal counseling. After 3 missed courts, then it moves to a written reprimand. If it continues, it's progressive discipline. As it continues, it goes from written reprimand to suspension, and then ultimately leading to termination. However, built into that is the ability for the officer to appeal, because you never know, there could be extenuating circumstances in the situation that cause the officer to miss court. So matrix of leadership is always the best because everyone knows what type of discipline they're going to get. And I believe that unions actually love having that, because they can say, hey, you know, you did this, this is what you're going to get. It's not going to be, hey, the chief is going to make the decision. There's a matrix of discipline.
So there's a question from Blake. Blake, could you go ahead and read this question or ask this question in your voice instead of mine?
Sure.
I feel like I'm going to miss some nuances of what you want to ask.
Yeah, sure. So as we know, police work and campus security are clearly very differently defined roles that possess drastically different powers and authority. That being said, what would you do to give the population you would be serving at North Seattle College the same level of trust and confidence that they may have in the local police authorities regarding their well-being and best interest to the campus security team under your direction? This could be regarding training programs, procedures, policies, et cetera, that you may feel are important to implement.
Okay, I want to make sure that I have this together, Dennis. So you want to make sure the outside law enforcement agencies, correct?
No, well, not necessarily. Essentially, what policies, procedures, or trainings would you implement to your staff that would allow them to give our student body or staff, whoever, just the population you're serving, the same trust and confidence they would have in our local police authority without possessing the same authorities and powers they do?
Okay. When you're saying local police authority, now I'm trying to make sure I'm clear because there's security in the local police, but you're saying within our campus, correct?
Yeah, within our
Okay.
campus, but our campus security distinctly from any outside authority.
Okay. All right. Excellent question, Dennis. And as I've always been trained by Cincinnati Police, everything starts from the top down. So it starts with me and trickles down. So for me, I always got to keep my compass pointed north, do the right thing, and keep my reputation beyond reproach. With that having been said, the consistent training. So my officers are going to have, first of all, yearly legal update training. We're going to work in tandem with outside law enforcement agencies and also other college agencies to see how they're doing things. And we'll have our policy and procedure with dealing with students. So if a student said, let's say something that's common that happens on college campuses, let's say drinking underage, and how we would handle that is we have a student that's drinking underage on campus. One, we're going to talk to him. We're going to bring him into the station. We're going to get his information. We're going to process it, and then we're going to send the incident. If it's his first offense, we're going to send it up to the dean of students with whoever the supervisor's recommendation is, based on what the procedures are that we have, since it's a first offense and he's not having any prior problems. Basically, what we're going to have is our own internal school judicial system. The student, in turn, if we go ahead and charge him with it in the judicial realm, what we will have created is, like we had at Wilberforce, is a mock court. And this court is going to consist of students, his peers, who will be trained and understand the nuances of criminal law, of how the judicial process works on campus. And basically, we as the officers are going to present our case. The student can have an advocate for him if he so chooses, or he represent himself. The students then look at everything and make a decision as to the type of punishment he should get or should not get, based upon, again, a matrix of disciplinary action that we're going to employ. Do you understand where I'm going with this? So we have our own judicial system within our school.
Okay.
Edward, could you explain the difference between, I'm trying to get a clarifying question here going, between performance management and progressive discipline?
Okay, let's go with progressive discipline first and foremost. Progressive discipline is when you actually start with one incident. Let's go back to that example I used with missing court. So the officer misses a court date. And in the course of him missing that court date, okay, we have one document incident. Let's say he misses 3. So now he's moved up from a written counseling on each incident to now a written reprimand. If it happens again, it moves from, it could go to another written reprimand, or it may go beyond a written reprimand to a 8-hour suspension. So for each offense that takes place, we're moving on to more and more progressive discipline up to and including termination.
Mhm.
So do you understand that portion?
Yes.
Okay. Now, performance management. What I think performance management is the ability of the manager, or say me, to make sure that one, I am employing all techniques available to educate and train and keep my officers trained and abreast of current events, legal updates, use of force or less than lethal methods of use of force, peer support, de-escalation techniques, and the use of verbal judo.
Okay. I've never heard of verbal judo, but that's okay.
Okay.
So Tony Stankovich is, her question is, can you share with us your experience with Title IX and Clery reporting?
Okay. With Clery, what we felt was most important being at Wilberforce University with our Clery report is to make sure that we accurately reported the type of crimes that took place on the campus. Now, that being said, those type of crimes have to be, we don't want our campus to look like it's unsafe. So if you have, let's say, an assault, two students that get into it, if it's possible to look at it and say, okay, is this actually an assault, or can we downgrade this to a disorderly conduct? On the Clery report, what we want to show is, hey, we don't have a problem. What we had was two disorderly students. Which would you rather have? 9 times out of 10, I'd rather show on the report that we had a disorderly student than an assault, because assault makes it seem like, oh, wow, we got students that are running around fighting each other. So when we're making our reports, we want to make sure that they are accurately reflecting the correct offenses that are taking place, and making sure they're reflecting that we are a safe campus for people to come and visit. Because as you said, with that rail thing that is that you have, you're going to have a lot of volume coming in and out of campus. We want to make sure that our campus is safe, that when people look on the website and they read the Clery Act and everything, they're seeing that, hey, this campus is safe. They're documenting everything. There's no serious crimes. You're going to have thefts here and there, but sometimes you got to look at those thefts. Is it actually a lost property? We used to list them at Central State University as thefts, and later on we discovered, okay, we're going to downgrade it to lost property, because 9 times out of 10 the students actually had lost the property.
Okay, thank you. I don't think you touched on Title IX though.
Title IX, on basically with that, what we're going to do is I'm going to make sure that my officers are having ongoing training on the various types of offenses, such as the sexual offenses, the discrimination. That's something that has to be ongoing. It doesn't stop. I feel that what me as the chief would work with the HR department and have the individuals that are in the HR department work with our officers in making sure that we are constantly updated on Title IX on a regular basis, so that we're not violating anything, and none of the staff, faculty and staffs are violating. So the ongoing training is what's so important.
Thank you. Are there any more questions, folks? I think this is a prime opportunity to keep asking these questions in this open forum. That's why we have them. So if there's any questions, please feel free to unmute and ask, or put it in the chat, or put your question in the chat.
I have, this is Marianne. I just have one quick little detail that I wanted to nail down. It was my understanding that in your current position, the campus security officers are armed. Did I get that right?
Yes, ma'am. They are armed at Wilberforce University. They also have multiple devices on what I like to call the bat belt of less than lethal. The firearms always going to be the last resort. But what we have is we use chemical irritant, or what you commonly known as mace. Officers are trained in the ASP and various hand-to-hand techniques, but that is the last resort. Prior to me moving to Cincinnati State, I was in the process of working with the chief on the taser issue and the body cam. So we were working on trying to get grants for that. So we felt that that would be good. If I'm not mistaken, at last I had spoke with the chief, the president wasn't quite ready to move with taser technology.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Tony has posted, have you worked in campus security that were not police?
No, I haven't. The current campus security that I also work with is the United States Environmental Protection Agency. The building sits right across from the University of Cincinnati, which is considered an open campus, which means the students come across on our property. However, we are armed.
Okay. Are there any other questions for Edward Greene?
Could I also expound on that?
Sure.
The reason why we have to be armed on the Environmental Protection Agency's campus is because it is a government facility, and they mandate that any security be armed because it's a federal facility. That is why.
Odessa, I have a related question.
Please.
Hi, Mr. Greene. Good to see you again.
It's a pleasure to see you as well.
I just want to follow up on this discussion about the campus security being armed. So in the Washington State Community College system, it's not part of our campus environment to have armed security members. So I'm wondering, can you speak to how you would adjust, since your experience is as an armed security officer, et cetera? How would you adjust to a culture where arming campus security is not part of our practice?
I would employ with the community options that are less than lethal. And right now, the current light for less than lethal has been taser. So if we are not to use, we're not to be armed with firearms on campus, which I completely understand and I can appreciate how you would feel about firearms. Taser offers a less than lethal alternative and enables the officer to immediately subdue a individual from a distance without hurting them and without hurting the officer. So that is important, is the safety of both the student. Let's say if it is a student that is disorderly and is refusing to obey direct commands and is actively combative, you have to find a way to control that individual. Taser offers that in a manner that would immediately bring the student under control, and in a manner that there would no chance for loss of life. If you understand what I'm saying? So we want to be safe. We don't want to hurt our students. We don't want to have our students hurt. I would much rather have to tase a student than to strike a student with an ASP. You know, you see what I'm saying? How does it look on video? You striking with an ASP, even though the officer could strike in all the correct points that are taught by OPADA or the law enforcement certification vehicle that you got to use in Seattle, striking with a baton or ass, to me, still looks bad. But at using a taser, the officer could be 21 feet away, tase the individual, stop him, and immediately request for medical attention if the student has fallen and injured himself, or we're going to request medical attention anyway when it's a tasing. The appropriate report's going to be made and sent up to the dean. And once again, we're going to make the decision with the tasing. Are we going to hold it within our judicial process, or are we going to file the actual criminal charges? I much would rather have everything held in-house if we can.
Okay, thank you. So with the interest of time, because it's on my clock, it's 1:49. We have 2 questions left.
Okay.
The first question is from Yusuf Mazzella. I hope I pronounced your last name correct and your first name. How would you approach an atmosphere where security officers are not armed? And the second question is from Kevin Williams. If there is 0 chance of deploying any weapons, are you still interested in coming to North Seattle College?
Okay. Let's go back to the first question, make sure
Mhm.
that I have it correct. Can you reiterate that
It
one
says,
more time? Because
how will you approach an atmosphere where security officers are not armed?
again, we have to use alternatives. And when you say armed, you're meaning firearms. So we have to find alternatives, less than lethal. There are various other less than lethal options that are available in the law enforcement realm. One being chemical irritant. Of course, having the AS, which I hate to have to see something to that effect being deployed. And also what we have is called a pepper ball gun. And pepper ball gun deploys balls of chemical irritant, tear gas, at the individual, and it's not like a firearm. It's much like a paintball gun, and that's how you can control a situation. Now, moving on to the second question.
Oh, so the second question, is there a 0 chance of deploying any weapons? If there is 0 chance of deploying any weapons, are you still interested in coming to North Seattle College? Kevin also added a clarifying, my question includes no gas, asps, batons, handcuffs, or anything else. So there is no, non-lethal accessories, if you will, for that.
Okay. And who is the young man that brought this question?
Kevin Williams.
Mr. Williams, pleasure to speak with you. And it's an excellent question. The thought is, how do you handle a student that becomes distraught, disorderly, and is combative, or actually brings a firearm on campus? Not having any type of weapons, I understand how a campus feels. But when an incident does happen, we need to be able to safely stop the situation, such as an active shooter. We can't stop a situation, an active shooter, if they're on campus, or a student that is actively engaged in causing harm. And what I'm saying is, calling 911 and waiting for the local police. While calling 911, waiting for the local police to respond, you have a student that has the ability to cause serious problems, basically loss of life, and we have no way of stopping it, because as soon as the security officer stands in his way, the student's going to engage his weapon against the officer has nothing. Your question was, would I still come to Seattle? Yes, I would, because I welcome the challenge. I welcome the fact that I can go to Seattle and work with the officers in making a security force that's able to handle any type of critical incident, and also be trained in de-escalation techniques. Now, we still have the problem of that active shooter that's out there. But at the same time, I like to believe that the students of Seattle we won't have to worry with that situation. But I still, as your chief, I still have to worry about that. I still have to make sure that I am being responsible and safe. I cannot allow under my watch any student, faculty, or staff member to be injured by lack of safety. If I'm not doing that, there is no safety. That means anyone can come in and do what they want. We have to be able to have some means less than lethal to handle that situation and bring it into a safe close. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Actually, I
Yes.
do. Yes, and I'll be brief due to time. The reason why I asked about the distinction between the Midwest and the West Coast is because I'm from the Midwest. I'm now here on the West Coast.
Okay.
Washington State is unique. There is zero opportunity for any weapons. There will not be any weapons. They won't authorize any weapons. It's not going to happen. So what I'm trying to do is make sure that you understand clearly that none of the ideas that you are espousing, which I agree with, I understand, I'm from the Midwest, none of those are options. There will not be anything that your security officers can have to use to protect the students if there is any sort of dangerous incident. It's not going to happen. So I want to make sure that you understand clearly what you will be getting into in the event that you were offered the job, because those options that you're discussing are the norm across the nation. They're not the norm in Washington.
And I understand that, Mr. Williams. And yes, I can adjust. It would take more training for the officers to be able to handle critical incidents and also invoke, for lack of a better term, being able to the use of having a command presence.
Trust
Okay,
me, I
thank
understand.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. So Edward, I'm going to have to close this down.
Okay.
Do you have any 30 seconds of to end? I've enjoyed meeting you and seeing you in this forum. So if you have 30 seconds, that would be great to end the forum.
Yes. If you decide that I meet the criteria for you, my job, once again, is to get to know each and every one of the students and make myself available to them. I always believe in having a open door to hear student problems, and being a former student myself with the University of Cincinnati, it makes it easier to understand and work with you. And that's pretty much in a nutshell.
Thank you so much.
It's a
Thank
pleasure.
you for joining us today. Of all the folks who were attending, I posted the link to the feedback form. Please take the time to fill it out and return it to me by tomorrow end of day. I would appreciate it. So thank you. We will see you all again shortly for the next one. So thank you, Edward. Have a good week, and we'll see you soon.
Okay, it was a pleasure to meet all
Thank
of
you.
you. Take care.
All
Bye-bye.
right, bye.